As you look around the great hall, a loud rumbling echoes in the distance. Bam! 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 Instinctively, your gaze turns to the entrance door, which bursts open at that very moment. 3 figures stumble in. A woman with a hook hand and a white-brimmed hat. A small lady dressed in a heavy coat with a tall hat carrying a long staff on her back and a goose under her arm that snaps angrily and shouts, "Honk! Honk! Honk!" Lastly, a man with a grim expression and heavy armor stumbles into the room. They all pant heavily, as if they've just run for their lives. You don't have time to ask what is happening, because the rumbling grows louder and closer. Your eyes dart to the door. Another man in plate armor, carrying a fierce warhammer, is running towards the mansion as fast as he can in his blade, shouting with hope in his voice, "I can make it! I can make it!" But behind him is the cause of the rumbling, a colossus of a man, as tall as a 3-story building, wearing a long silken robe with a bushy beard down to his chest. His face is twisted with rage, and above his head he swings what must be the bell of a bell tower. The man in plate armor unfortunately doesn't make it. 5 meters from the entrance of the mansion, the bell crashes down on him, leaving a red puddle where it struck. Panic spreads across the faces of the 3 unknown figures. As one of the columns supporting the ceiling of the great hall begins to crumble, the figures scatter in all directions. Outside, the giant's angry roar thunders in your ears. What do? Hi, I'm Matthias. I've been a GM for 10 years and today we are discussing how to prepare and run a one-shot. But what is a one-shot? And why should I even run one? Most people who click this video already know this, so I'll just briefly summarize. A one-shot is a self-contained adventure that is played in one evening. In my experience, 3 to 4 hours are a good time frame. But it can also be shorter or much longer, even up to 8 hours if you have the right group. There are many good reasons to play a one-shot instead of a campaign. Maybe you want to try something new. A new system, your own homebrew rules, or perhaps you're taking your first shot at actually running a game. Or maybe you want to try someone new, meet new players, test a group to see if the chemistry is right, or you simply have limited time, friends visiting from out of town and you won't see them for a while, playing at a convention or store where you won't meet the same people again. Stuff like that. New players are also much easier to convince to try a one-shot rather than starting a campaign. Hey! I'd like to try a role-playing game with you on Friday night. Takes about 4 hours. Do you want to join? It's much easier to sell than, hey, I'd like to start a role-playing game with you on Friday night. We'll be playing every Friday night for the next 6 months. Are you in or out? A one-shot is a very intense form of role-playing and requires quite a bit of preparation. And rest assured, although it's harder to run a one-shot than a campaign, it's incredibly fun when the effort pays off. Completing the adventure in one evening and everyone having fun feels truly awesome. When planning the one-shot, one thing should be clear from the beginning. Time is limited. You must design everything to save time. And here is my first tip. Come up with a plot and setting where the game takes place. Makes sense. A final stand works great, and so does an art heist, a prison break, or a ticking time bomb. You're all poisoned and you must find the antidote within 4 hours. You want to escape from Alcatraz and tonight the power will go out. After that, security will be increased. The plot must be easy to understand and the motivation must be clear to the players. Now to the setting. Choose a controlled space that cannot be avoided. A terrible tip for a campaign, good tip for a one-shot. What works here? A dungeon, a prison, a train like Murder on the Orient Express or a spaceship. Whatever it is, the location should be contained and you should have full control over what happens within it. Give your players pre-generated characters. Give them a few more to choose from than there are players. This way you have replacements ready if one of the characters dies during the adventure. By the way, in a one-shot this is no problem. You don't have to have the characters completely finished. Maybe there are still a few points to distribute so that the players have some room for customization. But 90%, 95% of the character creation should be done by the GM before the session. Prepare everything you want to hand out to the players. Maps, magical items and index cards, letters. Have all those pre-written. Or tape recordings that self-destruct in 10 seconds, though I would recommend against bringing a real exploding tape to the table. Maybe just say boom instead. And for extra material, Summarize the rules of your system on one page, or even better, steal it from someone on the internet who has already done so. Less work for you. Finally, have a one-page summary of the adventure for yourself. Whether you wrote the adventure yourself or took a pre-made one, summarize it in one page, and very importantly, think about a point of no return. The point where the players must be at least an hour before the end of this evening to have a satisfying conclusion to the adventure. For example, the big fight against the dragon or the final battle against the zombie hordes. Find this point and mark it. Also, think about sections you can cut out or condense if time runs short, or expand if you have extra time. Using a pre-made adventure is just as valid as writing your own. The example from the beginning of the video is from Ben Milton's adventure The Waking of Willowby Hall. The very first one-shot I ran, I wrote myself. Interestingly, it was also the first time I ever ran a game and the first time I played D&D. The adventurers were in a wizard's tower and had to clean up the chaos caused by the apprentice accidentally, definitely not inspired by the Sorcerer's Apprentices. If you write the adventure yourself, follow the 5 encounter system. You'll find it online if you Google 5-room dungeon, but it doesn't have to be a dungeon. The system works, and it's great for one-shots. Now we know what we need and how to prepare the one-shot. Of course, the question is, how do we run it? You probably remember the intro of the video. You know, the giant crushes the poor guy in the plate armor. And that's how a one-shot should start, in media res. In campaign sessions, you have all the time you want. You can start in a city, the characters go shopping, make plans, talk to NPCs. But time is a luxury you simply don't have here, because the whole adventure should be completed in 3 to 4 hours. Think of it more like a movie than a 20-episode series, more like a short story than a 500-page novel. We skip big introductions and lore dumps. We start right in the middle, preferably even directly with a fight if you're playing a combat-heavy system. We don't start with planning the prison break. We start as the alarms go off and the cells open. We don't start with a long journey through the Andromeda system, but with the enemy ship opening fire. Is an adventure in high seas? Start with pirates boarding your ship. And by the way, this alone is enough for a one-shot already. Don't start with a lengthy introduction of the dinner guests, but with a scream. The host has been found dead in his room, a knife in his back, and you need to find the murderer. You don't even need to hold back in one-shots. In the campaign, players have invested a lot of time and emotional energy into their character. Maybe they've been playing them for several months, and if the character suddenly dies, it naturally affects the player. But not so in our one-shot. You've invested the energy. At most it's a pity for you, but not really. Give your players the next character sheet and keep going. Again, the giant from the beginning. An unsurmountable obstacle for our heroes, at least with normal weaponry. A player wants to heroically charge at him, one stomp and it's over. But here's a new character. Now everyone knows what's at stake. I recommend having a clock in the room. Either a wristwatch or a wall clock. Preferably where the players can't see it. That way you always have an overview of where you are time-wise and you don't have to fumble out your phone first. And if in doubt, don't take the rules too seriously. Sure, in a normal campaign it's no problem to say, I'm not sure about that rule right now, let me look it up. But here I recommend, make a decision. If it doesn't match the rules 100%, no big deal. Communicate it with the players. Feel free to say that you're just making a decision. And treat your prepared material the same way. Running out of time? Then the Lich, who was supposed to be a cool encounter, is just there with the dragon at the end. The players are even faster than expected? Then the Lich also has a Death Knight, Corporal or Servant or whatever. What do you do if the players do something completely different than you have prepared though? It was supposed to be a combat heavy session, but the players having more fun talking to the people? Then that's what it's about now. Here I recommend even more strongly than ever to always say yes. And at least not use a hard no. Go with your players' ideas as long as it's even remotely within the realm of possibilities. Use yes and, yes but, and if it has to be a no, then if possible, a no but. Don't overthink it, don't make it more complicated than it needs to be, and don't slow down. You have the momentum, so keep moving forward. Be flexible, especially with the rules, and adjust your material, and cut things, throw them out, just keep going. Now comes something where you might think, hasn't Matthias been telling us to watch the time? But I tell you, take a break in the middle of the one-shot. 10 to 15 minutes. Then the players can go to the bathroom or collect their thoughts, and you can do the same. Go through the material again, see what still fits, what no longer fits, what maybe needs to be cut. There might not be enough time to fight through the zombie hordes, but there's time for a final battle while making noise to get a helicopter to save you. And if in doubt, end a bit too early rather than a bit too late, unless all the players can stay longer. Now comes what we worked so hard to avoid. You have prepared everything so well, but it still takes longer than expected. And you suspect you won't make it to the end in time. Talk to your players. Ask if everyone wants to add a second session to reach a satisfying ending. It's not ideal, but it's not terrible either. But maybe one will say, well, I don't have a free evening for the next 2 months to finish this. And you don't want to wait 2 months for the ending. But then everyone will have forgotten what it was about and the momentum is completely gone. In this case, skip as much as you can and again, talk to your players to create a satisfying ending for everyone. Make a short narrative sequence and describe how it comes to the grand finale that the players can still finish. I, for example, once ran an adventure, pretty standard plot. Enter a vampire castle and stop Count Villainous. Unfortunately, I completely misjudged how long it would take to get to Count Villainous, and when I realized that, I just asked the players, do we want to continue playing next week or do we quickly go to the end now? We couldn't find a suitable date, the calendars of 2 players just kept conflicting, so we quickly skipped the rest of the ball and at least had a showdown with Count Villainous in the throne room, and the vampire was successfully staked and the land was saved. Everyone was happy. With one-shots it's all about one thing: practice, practice, practice. Run many one-shots, run one-shots often, feel free to run the same one-shot multiple times. Try it with your regular campaign group if you have the opportunity. It's a great exercise before presenting the one-shot to new players. And again, I said that time is a limiting factor, but don't feel discouraged if it doesn't fit exactly into the time frame. 2 to 3 shots are also okay. Adapt to the group and take the opportunity to try something new. And most importantly, have fun. You as the GM are a player too, and you want to have fun as well. Finally, here are some pre-made adventures that are great for a one-shot. The Waking of Willowby Hall by Ben Milton. This is the adventure from the intro, where the giant tries to catch 3 thieves and also threatens to squish the player characters. Next, Winter's Daughter by Gavin Norman. A simple but beautiful dungeon with snow elves and a love that goes beyond death. I'll put the links to those in the description. You can basically run one-shots in any TTRPG system, but in my experience, some systems are better suited than others. Many powered by the apocalypse systems like Monster of the Week or One Shot World, I mean the name says it already, work super well. Rules light systems like Mausritter or Into the Odd also work great. Games like Pathfinder and D&D are also possible, but you should make sure to plan a maximum of 2 to 3 fights. These take a long time, especially with new players. Also, big part of the fun in those games is character creation, and you really don't want to do that at the beginning of the one-shot if you only have 4 hours. Maybe if you take longer, like 8 hours. 5-room dungeons work wonderfully in both of those systems. With that, you have everything you need to run a successful one-shot. Have you already had experience with one-shots? Do you know pre-made adventures that are great for a one-shot? Please write in the comments. And if you liked the video, recommend it to a friend. And don't forget to like and subscribe. That's it from my side, and I'm looking forward to seeing you again in the next video.